The Ironman World Championships are held here in Kona every year. It's one of the most iconic triathlon races in the world. And right now, it looks so beautiful and serene out there, but trust me, come race day, it's a completely different matter. So we're going to go into more detail, so come with us as we show you the course preview. Well, this is where it all starts with the swim. Now it heads straight out to the horizon. There's a 100-yard swim across and then straight back again. All in all, that's 3.8 miles. Well, on paper, it looks pretty straightforward, just out and back. However, it's far from that on race day. To start with, it's a non-wetsuit swim, which many triathletes won't be used to, and it's a mass start. You've got all the professional men heading off, 5 minutes after them, the professional women, and then it is when it gets crazy because it's the age groupers. All of the age group men go at once, followed by all of the age group women, and then in the water you're going to have all the press boats, the safety boats. It's absolutely manic. The crowd will be lining the banks here and you're trying to focus on your swim. It suddenly becomes a lot harder than you might think. As you might be able to spot a couple of swimmers testing out the course behind me. They'll be seeing what the currents are like, the waves and any chop. But the thing being, come race day, it could be entirely different. So that's the swim done. I think it's time to go and check out the transition area. It might be hard to imagine, but this right here is transition 1 and 2. So come Friday, it's going to be lined to the brim with 2,300 amazing time trial bikes. And one of the challenges for the athletes is actually finding your own bike amongst the masses. So the key will be to walk the course from out of the swim to your bike and then negotiating from once you've got your bike to heading out. In brief, the bike course looks like this. The athletes head out of T1 and they do a small clockwise loop and then an out and back along Quackini Highway before coming back into town with a short climb up to the Queen K. And then the course heads left onto the Queen K and heads north all the way to Harvey, where it's a turning point and it's 56 miles home all the way back to T2. So once you're safely through transition, you get onto your bike literally just there, and then you hit a slight incline pretty quickly. It's inconspicuous, but if you are in the wrong gear, it could be a slightly embarrassing start as you're clunking through your gears, or in the worst case scenario, even slipping your chain. But anyway, enough of me talking. I think it's time I went and got changed and actually checked out the course for real. The majority of the 112-mile bike course is along the Queen Kahumani Highway. This is iconically known as the Queen K, and you head out to Harvey at the turnaround point and then straight back again. The course is often described as having rolling hills, with the biggest gradient getting up to 6% and only lasting up to a mile in length. And it could sound fairly pleasant, but that's without taking into account the conditions. It's going to be hot and lonely out there, and as the day continues, the temperature will start to rise as these black lava fields just heat up and emit that scorching heat. The humidity is another factor, but that's not even taking into account the wind, which you can probably hear now. It can get up to some serious gusts. You could 1 minute have a headwind, crosswind. If you're really lucky, you might get a moment of tailwind, but it's sheer rider skill when you've got to try and keep your bike on the road, remaining in that aero position. Well, we're still heading out towards Harvey, the halfway point not that far up the road, and there's been some really nice downhill sections and some undulations, but there are definitely some punchy parts, and this is one of them. We've been climbing for quite a way already, and then you still have this block in front of you, and it's just straight uphill. There's absolutely no avoiding it, and you might be sat there watching going, this doesn't look like anything, but trust me, it is so tough out here. It's sections like this that make this Kona course so iconic and so hard. This is Harvey, and it's a significant point on the course, not just because it's the halfway point, but also because after 56 miles, it's pretty much the only time the athletes will get to see some population, some houses, some people, and a little bit of stuff going on. So it's a great break for the mind. However, having said that, it's pretty short-lived because you turn around and then it'll be head down back out into those barren lava fields. wondering what on earth I'm doing lying face down in my cycling kit on the hard shoulder of the Queen K. Well, I noticed this tarmac and I just had to stop and stroke it because it's so smooth. Now, those of you who are from countries that are lucky enough to have tarmac or asphalt, whatever you might call it, on your regular roads, well, lucky you, but we're not in the UK, and I'm sure other people will understand that having tarmac like this is quite a luxury. And as when it comes to race day, it's actually quite important because it means you can put your tyres up to a much higher pressure without having to worry about avoiding potholes or having a bumpy ride. I'm going to enjoy this smoothness. We've turned around and we're now heading home along the Queen K. And as well as having to negotiate the hills, the heat, the humidity, it's the crosswinds that this course is famous for. And they can come in gusts, making it even harder. So making sure that the athletes have chosen the right depth of wheel to suit them is vital. And then the key is just trying to stay as relaxed as possible on the bike. So I'm back from the cycle and into transition, and I've had time to quickly get into my running kit. And we're now going to go and see what the marathon course is like. The athletes will head out of T2, and they've got a couple of cheeky climbs in and around town, and then they're going to head out in that direction along Elphick Drive. Well, it's probably enough of me talking. It's time for me to get running. In brief, the course is made of two parts, with the first significant climb at about 10 miles and then another one at around 18 miles. Part one is through the town with a couple of short hills and then out and back along Elphick Drive. Once back into town, the athletes head north along the Queen K highway before dropping into the Energy Lab section until the final turnaround. And it's then single-digit miles all the way back to the finish line. Once the athletes reach this pretty little church, St Peter's by the Sea, it's time to turn around on Elphick Drive and head back into town along the streets that will be lined with supporters. But then it's going to be out onto the second part, which is much, much harder. Well, the athletes will have turned off the Queen K, and it's a bit of a respite. As you can see behind me, it's a long, straight stretch that actually heads downhill, but it's going to be short-lived because very soon the course will take a turn to the right and into the infamous, dreaded Energy Lab. This is the Energy Lab, and it's called so because there's actually a natural energy laboratory along here, which is slightly ironic in its naming because it's the part of the course where athletes will start to feel the energy being zapped out of them. It's a little bit breezy today, but it's known for being completely dead, hot, humid, and utterly desolate. It's this that's the reason for the sheer heat in this section of the Energy Lab, this black lava that surrounds the road on either side, and the black asphalt as well, just soaks up the sun rays throughout the day, and then by the time the athletes reach here on the marathon, it's just emitting that heat. On a normal day or during an easy training session, the heat emitted from this rock wouldn't cause too much of a problem, but it comes at the latter stages of the marathon, and that's what makes the Energy Lab, this section of the course, so notoriously hard. I've spoken to several people when researching about the Energy Lab section of the course, written the script and driven parts of it, but it's only now when I start to run it that I really get that feeling and understand why it's notorious for being so energy zapping. But on the plus side, once you get to the end of here, you're into single figure miles till you get to the finish line. This is it, the final few meters of the marathon course. So the athletes will be coming from in front of me, finishing just back here. And right now, admittedly, it doesn't look like anything, but come race day, these stands are going to be absolutely packed to the brim. The streets will be lined and emotions will be high. Every athlete will have had different goals, different targets, but finishing this iconic course is a dream for any triathlete. Well, we're back and we've checked out pretty much all of the Ironman World Championship course, and I'm exhausted, and that's just thinking about the course. The tough parts, I mean, on the bike, it just goes on and on and on out in a straight line, and it's going to be a real battle of the mind for the athletes, but also a physical one. And I rode a couple of tiny sections, and it made me realise just how strong that wind is, that crosswind just blowing you across the road, and it's going to be a real challenge of bike handling skills. And then as for the run, well, the Energy Lab, I see what people are talking about now. It does just zap your energy, and it's going to be incredibly tough. And that was just sitting in a car looking at it. At the end of a marathon, putting all of that together is just quite something. And I've started to get a little bit of a comprehension as to just why this course is so iconic and why the Ironman World Champs in Kona are known to be one of the toughest triathlon races in the world. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that preview and it's given you a bit of an insight. Give us a thumbs up like if you have, and subscribe to GTN by clicking on the globe. And if you want to watch a video when we did an experiment at Team Bath University looking at how cycling cadence can affect your run, just click down here. And if you want to watch a video on how to run like a pro, click down here.